debt sustainability across the ECOWAS region has been a source of concern in recent years. Earlier in June, the president of the ECOWAS Commission cautioned member states of their rising debt profile, which he attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group and the Open Society Initiative for West Africa have set up the Debt Management Roundtable to help countries in West Africa to keep debt under control.
I think, almost everyone has some level of concerns in terms of the debt profile of the countries within West Africa, but more so in terms of Nigeria's debt profile. And these concerns are, they're not unfounded, they're not baseless. So people do have their own genuine reasons why they have those concerns. So what the NESG and OSIWA is trying to do is to say, beyond doing the analysis and complaining, can we do something more than that? Really, our focus is to see whether we can get some insights. One, as to how those debts are accumulated, what are the reasons for them beyond what seems to be obvious. And two, is to say, how can we improve our debt management within the sub-region? And more importantly, how do we ensure sustainability? Because debt of itself is not a bad thing. It's really about how you manage it and what you do with the resources that you have borrowed. Thank you. So the Debt Management Roundtable is made up of experts from different countries. We also try to have representatives from Francophone speaking country within West Africa. And the idea is looking at how do you ensure sustainable debt management and to optimize actually for every dollar or local currency that we borrow, are we getting the best value for those monies? In terms of, the way whether debt forgiveness would help, I think it will depend on the makeup, the composition of the debt that you're looking at. So Nigeria, for example, the composition of our debt is mostly Eurobond. So this is very different from the Obasanjo's regime when our debt was mostly from, the global institutions and multilateral organizations, and then you could get a waiver. So it's very unlikely that, an investor who had put money in Eurobond will waive anything. They're not going to waive anything for you. You may find that is slightly different for maybe a country like Ghana, where they have some of their indebtedness to the IMF. But I think at the end of the day, it will be a question of every country looking at within a framework, why are you piling up debt? Is there anything you can do differently? What is the optimal level? Is it only just GDP debt ratio? Should you be more worried about the debt service ratio to your revenue and the sustainability of what are you spending those money on? And where, of course, you can get a waiver, I would say certainly to the extent that getting that waiver is not counterproductive, because if you seek for a haircut for private sector investing in government bond, that in itself it can be counterproductive. So it will be a question of what is most suitable for every country depending on their own circumstances. So I think, the point about the G20, even more recently, the IMF in their World Economic Outlook for June, I think it was June, the most recent one, had also estimated that at the end of the day, we see that the pattern of recovery globally it's not uniform, because one, due to the rate of vaccination, and then two, is the ability and the fiscal space for different countries to intervene, such that we're seeing a wide gap between the developed economies and the emerging and developing economies like Nigeria. So at the end of the day, you need to be able to find a way to support different countries so that we can have global recovery that is sufficient enough to get us out of the wood, because this is a global problem. You cannot just take care of a few countries. So at the end of the day, I think whether it's the G20, whether it's the IMF and the World Bank, supporting around FX liquidity in particular, which is a major challenge in Nigeria. Not having FX in itself can then lead to other bigger issues, including inflation, slow growth, and poverty. So I think these supports are necessary. So this is why also we don't have to blame government every time because they're borrowing. We should then more interrogate why they are borrowing and whether those are being judiciously utilized.